Hey, welcome back to the Social Services Maven. It's Jamela coming back. So, how was everyone? I have been thinking about, we had the first video, which is case worker versus social worker. And you should go back and look at that video. It's not the best video. Leave a comment below and let me know if you want me to remake it. But it was my first one, so work with me. And, I want us to speak about your first 90 days in your case management position. And we're going to identify 5 ways to, one, get through that trial period easily. 2, secondly, identify your strength in the group, how you can identify that strength, and just maybe alternatives that's not presented to you always to gain knowledge, right? So let's begin with number 5. Whenever I go off into a role, I have noticed that observing your coworkers, the cultural climate of the job that you're working in, and as well as possible new funding or funding that has already come off into the program and the project that you're working in. Identification through observation gives you a great way to see how individuals work and how they think. In order for you to communicate with someone, you have to understand how they think and how they process information in order for you to be understood. So, observe someone who is in your role, the same as you, which would be your peer. Secondly, someone who is possibly above you. Since you're a caseworker, more than likely there's a clinical team component to it or outside clinical team. See how they work, how they operate, what their roles and responsibilities are. And third, your direct supervisor, if they are in the same office as you, you want to really get to see how they work and how they speak and how they keep up with things. And then their supervisor. All of these observations within your first 90 days will teach you how to speak like the team so that you can move like the team because you're a team and you all have your different roles to play. And even though someone on the team might have the same role and responsibilities as you on paper under the job description, it is important for you to see how you fit off into that. Once you identify that, it's easier through that observation period. So, number 4, asking questions. If this is your first job in social services, human services, depending upon how you were introduced to the job through formal technical education and or through you have a lived experience, or you just might have empathy towards the population that you are serving, even though you have not lived or have a close personal experience. And I say that asking questions, it removes that desire to want to be perfect. There's no such thing as perfection in any form of any fashion. So, being a constant learner gives you a great opportunity to see how, back again to that observation, how the team works, where you fit in at, but also theory. In school, these are all theoretical viewpoints in which you are learning through observations, through clinical trials and clinical studies, which is typically the specific in age group, the year of the study, the location of the study, the city who was observing, all of those things come into play. So really it's just validated opinions, really. But you working in that and seeing it on a day-to-day, it allows you to ask questions to apply to what you have possibly learned or what you have possibly lived through. And if you have zero experience in something voluntary, you need to be asking questions anyway. So number 3 is you should be at a point through this process of verifying your strengths. And I say verifying your strengths. Let's say, for instance, you on the team, you were really good at the intake process. And that intake process could consist of asking questions that could be personal. That intake process could be of giving a potential client a follow through in the sense of maybe they need to go get their driver's license if they are homeless, or maybe if you're, for example, going into a drop-in center and they do not have any medication, and you can refer them to the emergency psychiatric hospital so that they can get a 30-day supply. That could be your strength. Or your strength could be paperwork, documentation, documenting, keeping everything in line, because that helps you say, okay, I know what I'm good at. So who can I link with to help them? Or maybe your supervisor isn't good at that. So you are identifying a need in the team and establishing yourself as that person that is supplying that need or that demand. Kind of like in the business model, supply versus demand. And secondly, could be, for me, as an example, I started my social services career working on a grant, which was a project that had yet to become a program. But within that area, a lot of other CBOs, which are community based organizations, have been funded that pretty much exact grant. The thing is that we were in a different city and they were in a larger metropolitan area. Reach out to other CBOs, reach out to other individuals within that same position as you are. Like, I was a community outreach worker, and 30 minutes in the city over, they had the same grant, and they were community-based outreach workers as well. We linked up. It made things easier, and it gave us a great way to establish what was working and what was not working, and to have each other's back. If you know, when your funders come out and you go through your trainings, I don't want to say an investigation, but it's a follow-up and a research study. I want to know what's going on. Why aren't you making your numbers? Or why are you making your numbers? So saying they're working with so-and-so over here, they're funded by that same person, and they know that, okay, it's happening, it's working. And last but not least, what I began to do, and I will say made me stronger in my roles, is I kept notes on myself. That's number one. It seems anal, it seems super Virgo because I'm a Virgo, but it worked. And why did it work? Me keeping notes on myself, especially within meetings with the team and also my personal meetings with my supervisors, it let me see my growth. You are not going to always see your growth. You are not going to feel it in the midst of it. But going back and saying, with this client on this day, this is where they started. And when I handed them over to the clinical team, this is where they were at. It allows you to see your successes, because everyone on your team might not always clap for you. You might have your first role or your second role amongst a team that does not like you. And you might be in a position to where you have to prove, and numbers don't lie. Don't ever put that in your mind that you have to prove. Establish yourself. So, this is video number 2. And this video is stating how to be strong and how to just really, really, really utilize that first 90 days of employment. 90 days creates an entire new identity, and you have to do that in order for you to be successful. As I always end and as I always say, caseworkers, entry-level caseworkers, are so needed in our society right now. There is so much going on, and people are mentally sick. You saying yes to an entry-level job, do not focus on the pay, even though I know money can be tight. And don't focus on entry level. Get strong. You are needed. Thank you, and I'll see you next Wednesday. Bye.